What? You can. You're going to come back out while I'm talking?
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Okay, we're going to wait 10 seconds.
Great. That way the folks online can tell us if there's any audio issues, but I think we're good.
I'm going to lock it.
So 1 seat in the front row.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience and the ribbon cutting for the Southern Jewish Family Research Center. My name is Kenneth Hoffman. I'm the executive director of the museum, and I guess I have something to do with this center too, but pretty soon we hope to have this center also staffed up with wonderful people. I want to start out by asking for a little audience participation. Whether you know it or not, whether you know them or not, you have 8 great-grandparents, right? 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 3 generations back. Raise your hand if you can name your 8 great-grandparents. 1, 2, 3 hands, 4, 5 hands, 6, 7 hands. That's incredible. I am shocked. I generally don't get that number of hands going up. Who can name 4 of their great-grandparents? Okay, a few more people, right? Who can't name any of their great-grandparents? And that's okay. And that's okay. All right. And I see some hands up there too. All right. Well, I do this little exercise because in my mind, the minimum that I would like everyone to know about their own family, whether they're Jewish or not, whether they're Southern or not, is to be able to name their great 8. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be trying to accomplish with this research center, is to help people do that. Now I'm going to go to the typed part of this that I just typed up about an hour ago. So we'll see if it makes sense. 3.5 years ago, we opened the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience right in the middle of a pandemic. Since then, more than 35,000 people have come to visit the museum throughout the South, from across the country, and from around the world. What did they see? They saw stories of strangers in a strange land, immigrants, children and grandchildren, Holocaust survivors who made new lives for themselves in the South, Confederate soldiers, and civil rights icons, all making choices about what to give up to fit into their new communities and what to hold on to maintain their Jewish identities. Along the way, they not only created a unique identity, a mix of Southern and Jewish, they contributed to the growth and success of their communities as merchants, as teachers, as civic leaders, as philanthropists, and yes, as museum professionals. In the short time we've been open, we've met many people who want to learn more about their Southern Jewish roots and their connections to other Southern Jewish families, a distinctly Southern-tinged Jewish geography. Well, we have answered those requests, or at least we're beginning to answer those requests with the Southern Jewish Family Research Center. This center is being established to give us opportunities to engage and educate the public, not only about the archival materials in our own collection, but to empower people to become the historians of their own families. Through workshops, lectures, internships, and other programs that we haven't even conceived of yet, we want the center to serve as a gathering place for families, scholars, teachers, and students, for museum members, certainly, and for anyone who sees the value in studying the past to better understand ourselves today and to provide us with lessons for our future and for generations to come. Now, before we get to the fun part of this program, which is a wonderful show and tell, I have some important thank yous and acknowledgments to make. First of all, when we go into the center, these are the people you should think about thanking in your mind. The Perlin Family Foundation for our preservation and digitization suite. Dr. Ivan Sherman for the Oral History and Distance Learning Studio. To Joanne B. Freed for the Archival Vault and for her previous support of the museum. And the Ben May Charitable Trust for the reference library and reading room, and also for their previous support. Now for some acknowledgments. We have several of our board members here who work very hard to make sure the museum is successful, and they don't even get paid. So we have board chair Jay Tannenbaum, and you can raise your hand when I call your name so everyone will see them. We have vice chair, oh, you can even clap, yeah. Look at that. Now you have to clap for all of them. We have vice chair Morris Mintz. We have our other vice chair, Rusty Palmer. And we have our board members, Jay Silverberg, Lou Lewis, and Mark Stein. Did I leave out any board members that are here? No? Okay. We have our entire museum staff here, believe it or not. There's me. We have our Director of Development, Emma Hare. If you haven't heard from Emma, believe me, she'll be reaching out. We have our Public Programs Manager, Lizzie Meister. We have our Curator, Michael Jacobs, who you'll be hearing from in a moment, and who put in a lot of work mounting this exhibit. And we have our Visitor Services Manager, Leah LeBlanc, who is right over there. Leah makes sure that when you visit the museum, you have a wonderful experience and that you exit through the gift shop. I'd also like to point out that the architect for this space is here, Mr. Tim Lupin. And finally, I want to thank Paula and Harvey, my two parents, Molly, Max, Bluma, and Sam, my four grandparents, and Pauline, Jacob, Sylvia, Wolf, Regina, Israel, Anna, and Bendit, my 8 great-grandparents, otherwise known as my great 8. Thank you for being here. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Jacobs. I don't know where he is, but he's going to come up and he's going to show you a few of the things, the kinds of things that we're collecting and the kinds of things that we're trying to explore to understand the Southern Jewish experience better. Take it away, Michael. Good.
Again, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I would like to echo everything that Kenneth was talking about our new center. And I want to share with you a couple items from our collection. I also have a little typed up thing as well. So before you are, I would like to talk about collections that exemplify the stories that we hope to preserve here and highlight in this new center before you. The first collection I'd like to talk about is from the Ottinger family. This was received in 2022 by a member of the family. And I really want to talk about tonight is why this collection was chosen to be discussed tonight. One of the reasons why I chose this personally was to demonstrate what the center is all about. Because this collection includes photographs, albums, documents, genealogy, family research, family history, and family stories, which are all things that can better be interpreted here at the center with our new wonderful facilities. As I try to get my lovely gloves on, which won't act well. So what I want to talk about tonight is, again, this collection and what tools here at the center can help provide better preservation, better digitization, and better ways for our guests to interact with our collections as well as our family histories involved in this collection. So I'd like to first talk about one of the first members of the family, which came to Wilson, North Carolina in the early 1800s. Now, before the Ottinger family came, they had their relatives, the Rosenthals and the Wises, which came earlier in the 1840s. And as you will learn, a multiple web of complex interactions and marriages are what makes up the Southern Jewish experience. and particularly this family. So I would like to first talk about the first Ottingers that arrived in Wilson in 1861 from Germany. Of course, what happened in 1861 was the beginning of the Civil War. They came 3 months before the Battle of Fort Sumter, and the youngest son and brother Leopold joined the Wilson Light Infantry at 21. Unfortunately for him, he passed away at the Battle of Seven Pines in Virginia in 1862. His older brother Henry was so bereaved by the loss of his brother, him and their two sisters moved to Georgetown, Washington, and lived out the rest of their lives. But that wasn't the end of the Ottinger family in Wilson. By 1869, one of the other relatives from Baltimore came, Jonas Ottinger. Jonas Ottinger was originally from Baltimore and was the son of the sister of Emil Rosenthal. Emil Rosenthal was one of the most prominent merchants in Wilson. And on a visit to his sister, he convinced his sister and the young Jonas to move down at the age of 12. Within a couple of years, Jonas was able to take over the family business that Emil started, which was a department store, which would later become the Ottinger department store. At the time, the store was of minor size, but by the end of Jonas's career there, they would expand to over 15,000 square feet and would encompass over 6 city blocks. Unfortunately for Jonas, when he was at home visiting his mother, he got a telegram. This telegram told him that his uncle Emil had passed away. On that news, he decided to move to Wilson permanently and continue the family business. While there, he invited his brother, David, to come down, which then became J&D Ottinger Department Store. With the help of his brother, he was able to create one of the oldest department stores in the county and the third largest department store in North Carolina. What I would like to tell you as well about Jonas is that this right here is his wedding album from 1887 from his marriage with Rosa Rosenthal. Again, these interconnected families, you will hear the name Rosenthal, Wise, and Ottinger interchangeably because they all married each other. And why I brought out this album is because it shows the historical provenance of the family, as well as giving autographs and wedding congratulations. These congratulations stem from 1887 and go all the way up until 1900. Why I brought this out as well is to show what kind of conservation work we can do here at the center. As you can tell, it is falling apart a little bit and the spine is cracked. What we can do here is digitize and scan this album so we don't have to be using it and flipping it, and it can be digitized and preserved for generations of the family to look at. The next item I want to share with you is this photo album. Inside this photo album are over 200 photographs of the Ottingers, the Wises, the Rosenthals, and also the Wolf family. And the reason why this is such an importance to us is that all of these photographs are captioned with who, what, when, and where. And that's a really rare thing in our field to find. And one of the reasons why I don't want to constantly open up this book is because all the photographs are falling out of their pages. And by able to scanning and digitizing this, we will not only preserve the spine of the book, but have this more accessible to people online. Next, I want to share with you this marriage certificate. This marriage certificate was for Jonas and his wife. They got married in 1887 in Alexandria, Virginia. And what's interesting at the bottom of witnesses is Henry. Henry, as I mentioned, was the older son of Leopold, who died in the Civil War. Henry was able to come from Georgetown to Alexandria, which is not a long schlep, to be part and witness to the wedding, which I think was a wonderful connection that we were able to find. And one of the other things I want to share about this collection is something that's really important here at the center is, again, genealogy, family history, and family trees. Lucky for us, this family had an incredible passion for writing their own family stories. We have manuscripts written by Jonas himself right before his passing and was copied over. We also have the whole Ottinger family history of their businesses, as well as DNA records and paternity testing, which is something I think is always fun to learn about. And these are things that are really important to our center and to plenty of Southern Jewish families. This gives us the tools to make connections to other family members and provide a space where people can explore genealogy and family history. What I also like to talk about is a little bit more about Jonas. Not only did he run a department store, but him and the rest of his family were extremely civically minded and philanthropic. They were involved in every single society I could think of. This list here is at least a dozen for each of them. I'm not going to name all of them to you to save you some time, but I'd like to point out that he was one of the first people to found the Bank of Wilson, as well as multiple other real estate and loan and trusts. He was also instrumental in buying a plot of land and a cemetery for the Jewish community there, which he donated for free. And of course, if you know anything about Jewish cemeteries and burials, they are vital and important to the community. And by providing that service for free, really help build the Jewish community and maintain it. But next, sorry, I also had to mention as well, he helped found the Wilson Country Club as well as multiple of his other family members. And that's something I also like to point out as well, because we talk about country clubs and social clubs right behind you. But it wasn't just the Ottinger men that were civically philanthropic. I also want to talk about Pearl Ottinger, which is one of the matriarchs of the family. And here we have a photograph of Pearl in 1909 for the camera. Pearl was extremely important in helping play a vital role in the community, as well as the Jewish community there. I want to make sure I get this right. She was a charter member and first treasurer of the North Carolina Association for Jewish Women. She was the president of the Wilson's Women Club, as well as leading the local Red Cross efforts during World War II. Her son David took over the family store in 1929, ran the department store until 1969, as well as managed the Ottinger's family men's store until 1989. And I would also like to talk about this photo as well, which is the Ottinger's homestead and large house that was built in 1903 by Jonas himself, and by 1940 was turned into the local Elks Club and is still there today. One of the things we also like to explore here is, again, family trees and family legacies. This is a family reunion photo from 1979 with Pearl in the center and everyone else around is family. Without Pearl, none of these people would probably most likely have been alive. So again, we'd like to point that matriarchs and patriarchs are vital to the Southern Jewish story and play a vital role in preserving their family's life. What I really like to talk about is the Ottinger's story showcases the influence of one family on the community, and not just through business, but through civic contributions that shaped Wilson for generations. So next, a very different collection. This is, of course, is a trunk, and this was one of our most recent acquisitions. It took me 6 months to work with multiple different donors. One of them, I was able to go to Tallulah, Louisiana, to get his oral history and get part of this collection. Now, of course, this trunk itself may not look impressive to you, but I was able to save this from an estate sale before it was sold. And unfortunately, for the people at home and people here, you cannot read what is on top. So I will tell you, painted on top is the name Dr. Joseph Sperling, as well as the address 2111 Camp Street. On that address originally was the Jewish Federation building of New Orleans. Now you may ask, why was someone's name on a trunk addressed to the New Orleans Federation? Well, because he was part of the New Americans. If you're not familiar with the New Americans, it was a group of Holocaust survivors sponsored by the local federation here in New Orleans who were able to come here and emigrate and start their new lives here. He was one of multiple that came here, and through research, we were able to identify him as a New American. And I would like to share with you some of the items that came over here with him from Europe. So first, I would like to start with talking about the people in this. So originally, this story is a story of love. It's a love story and a story of survival. What I already talked about is the story of Joseph and Ani, whose lives are intertwined with the objects in this collection. This journey begins with the chest that we saved from the estate sale. And the items in the chest bring key moments of Joseph's life to present. Joseph was born in 1907 in a small Polish town near Warsaw. His father was the owner and operator of multiple shoe stores and a furniture store. And on the onset of World War I, had to fight for the Polish army. And because of that, Joseph and his mother had to move around a lot, from Krakow to Warsaw to smaller towns in Poland. And by the 1930s, Joseph had relocated to Vienna to get a doctorate degree in law. And he would remain and then sent to and then he went to Krakow before the beginning of the war. But unfortunately, by 1942, when Poland was invaded prior, he was on the run and hiding from the Gestapo. In the summer of 1942, tragedy struck him and his family. The Gestapo and Einsatzgruppen tracked him down to a small town southeast of Krakow, where 6,000 Jews were rounded up and 5,500 were taken to the Belzec extermination camp, which included his parents, his first wife's family, as well as his wife. Now, the reason why Joseph was saved was because of his linguistic skills. Joseph spoke 5 different languages, including Polish, French, German, Hebrew, and English. And because of those skills, the Nazis kept and turned and made him, excuse me. He made him a scribe. So this is an armband that was worn by Joseph during his internment for 32 months. Now, one of his jobs, of course, was translating all of the information of the survivors to the Nazis. But one of his most grueling tasks were writing the death records for people sent to the gas chambers. And he was ordered to falsify the documents and say they died of heart attacks. Now, of course, for Joseph, this was extremely traumatizing, and he was sent to multiple different concentration camps. We know that because at some point, a commemorative pin was given to him or made by him, we are not sure, that highlight and explore the different concentration camps he was interned at. Now, this is in German. From 1942, you can't see it, 1942 to 1945. And by using these lists, I was able to track down his movements for 32 months. And while there in one of the camps, particularly in Buchenwald, he was given the task of being the translator. And that was where he was given these. These are patches that he was required to wear at all times to signify his number, as well as his status at the camp. And because of Joseph's unique position at the camp, he was allowed privileges that other survivors were not allowed. This includes being able to keep a personal purse, which is what I was told he called it. This was made from the same material as concentration camp uniforms. Now, inside of this purse, he had a few items that he kept from the end of the war. One of these being a tin cup for drinking, a toothbrush, and lastly, and I think one of the most interesting things, a bottle of cologne. And this cologne still has residue in it, but I will never open it up. It will stay there permanently as a reminder. Now, unfortunately for Joseph, because he was constantly moved around, and when Buchenwald was liberated by the Allies, he wasn't there. He was put on a death march right before and sent further east. And it wasn't until VE Day on May 8th, 1945, that Soviet forces liberated Joseph at a concentration camp in modern-day Czech Republic, near the modern day of Nixendorf. The following day in Nixendorf, he visited a local doctor named Dr. Freund. And that's when he met Annie. Now, Annie has her own very interesting story. Annie, before the onset of the war, was one of Europe's most famous soprano opera singers. And as a sign of passive resistance, stopped singing when the Nazis rose to power. Now, Annie is not Jewish, but she felt so compelled to stop singing because she disagreed with the Nazis. That was her way of a silent resistance. And starting in 1933, she started working as a nurse for her father. And for 6 months, Joseph faked being sick to visit Annie. And it was almost instantaneous that they were drawn, he was drawn to her, and their love blossomed quickly. They married on June 28th, 1945, near Nixendorf. Fearful of the communist spread to Czechoslovakia, they eventually left the US and left from Austria in 1951 with the help and sponsorship of the Jewish Federation here, because Joseph was Jewish. And we are not sure how he was in contact with people in New Orleans, but was able to get out and reach them and then come here. Once settling in New Orleans, Joseph worked as a bookkeeper, excuse me, at Perlis's, which is still in existence today. And Ani, for a time, taught singing at Tulane and was doing that from 1945 to 1954 to 1956. The couple became known for their deep affection and were often seen smiling, even playfully reenacting operas from Ani's past. Ani performed in local synagogues and sang for the Temple Sinai's 100th anniversary. At the same time, though reserved about his experiences through the war, Joseph was seen wearing his concentration camp uniform when he was talking to people about his experiences there. And what I have for you is the uniform itself. Now, we know that he wore it often, not only through anecdotal evidence, but with this newspaper article. There's Joseph wearing it right there. He would wear this quite often and would wear it when he was ever talking about his experiences. And I could only imagine what that must have been like and how visceral that experience that would have been for him and everyone else around him. So how do I know all this information? How did we get it? Well, through the words of Joseph himself. In 1961, he wrote a letter to Joseph Tannenbaum, who was one of the founders of the American and World Polish Jewish Federation, as well as one of the vice presidents of the American Jewish Congress. In this letter, Joseph explains his history in talking to Joseph Tannenbaum and explaining that we are actually related through a distant cousin and wanted to learn more about his family, as well as trying to find death records for his parents who were killed during the Holocaust. And another way that we got this information was from an oral history that I took from one of the donors in Tallulah. He wanted me to make sure that I told this story as a love story and described Joseph and Ani's love and how they adored each other, recalling scenes of them acting out operas, always smiling and always being happy. Their story is one of profound struggle, survival, and resilience, but it's a story of enduring love. Ani passed away in 1987 and Joseph in 1995, leaving behind the legacy we honor today. Their lives are those lives and those of other Southern Jewish families are a testament to their strength it takes to rebuild and the hope that blossoms in a new home. So if you have any more questions or want to learn more about them, please talk to me and reach out to me. And I want to take it back to Kenneth.
I have to take his audio. There you go. All right. I am not going to make a circumcision joke. So I just want to tell you that straight up. If you're waiting for that, it's not going to happen. But I am going to cut the ribbon on this new research center. And so I invite our friends from the New Orleans Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Development District, who are our partners in welcoming people to the great city of New Orleans. They're going to hold the ribbon here. I'm going to cut it, and then that's it. And then y'all can go home. Oh wait, let me get on this side. Yeah, let's get some of our board members up here. Oh, before I cut this ribbon, let me say something important. We've raised some money to make this happen, but we haven't raised all the money to make this happen. And so if you are one of those people who cares about your family and helping other people discover their family roots, we have opportunities for you to help us and for us to honor you in this new thing. So take a look at the little envelope that was in your program, take it home, return it to us, just bulging Okay.
What-
Oh,
1 second, a little bit of instruction.
yes.
We're gonna take some good photos first. So open the scissors, get
Uh-huh.
really excited, and we'll get some good pictures.
Wait, don't get my bald side.
One more.
Wait, let me suck it. Oh, God.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna count down. We'll do 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. I don't think this is gonna actually do it. Uh-huh. No. Right, exactly.
We got this.
Yeah.
And right after you cut, we're all gonna put our hands in the air and celebrate.
Okay, all right. And then we're gonna need a new board chair. Three.
3, 2, 1.
Yay! All right, thank you very much. You'll move around, I'll open the door. And everyone can come in, even though you've been in already.